What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 481 of AskGSM here today for Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. We have a lot of questions to get to, so we'll get right into it. If you do want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. I forgot last night due to the holiday, Valentine's Day, so I apologize. But you can also drop a question down below here in the comment section on YouTube. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. We'll start with Micah Does It from YouTube. His first question, is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver Dallas Sami Zayn's best match? If not, what would you say is? I'm only including WWE. I didn't see really any of his Ring of Honor career. I think I went back and watched the match he had with Owens. I think at Final Battle 2012, I want to say. The either Fight Without Honor, if not the Ladder War match they had at Final Battle 2012. Beyond that, though, if you're talking WWE only, then I think, and the answer might still be the same, that probably is his best match in WWE. Same with Nakamura. I think there was a bit more debate with Zayn. With Nakamura, I honestly cannot think of another match that came close to how great that match was at TakeOver Dallas. He had a lot of really good matches with AJ Styles in 2018. And Nakamura's had a lot of very good matches, not a lot of great matches. The Samoa Joe matches in NXT, the Bobby Roode matches in NXT were all very good. The Sami Zayn match still trumps them all. So I would still probably go with that one for Nakamura. For Sami, it's tough because there's a lot that come to mind. I think of that one. I think of the Adrian Neville match from TakeOver Our Evolution in December of 2014. I mean, that one had a way better story. Sami Zayn's chase for the championship, finally winning it, the crowd there in full sail, the post-match attack from Kevin Owens, which was incredible. That one is definitely up there as well. If not that match, then also the Kevin Owens match from Battleground 2016. It was supposed to kind of feel like their final encounter on the main roster for a while. They went on to have a match a month or two later on Raw, so it didn't exactly accomplish that purpose. But that match Battleground is still one of their best as well. So that one, it's not like his best match, but I actually really enjoyed the Johnny Knoxville match last year. I thought that was a great match and way better than I thought it would be. For a comedy spectacle match, I thought it was great. I guess his best match would be that Nakamura one, though. I think the other matches, the Owens match and the Neville match, had better stories. But as far as matches that were just, I don't know, because his story is part of the magic of what makes a match great. I would probably go with that Nakamura match. I probably would. The Owens match and the Neville match were two of the respective best matches of those respective years. I would still probably say the Nakamura match was better because it was Nakamura's debut in NXT. It was Sami Zayn's swan song from NXT. So it was great on both levels as far as, just accomplishing that and feeling monumental in that way and it being a big show over WrestleMania weekend. The match itself was incredible. Everything from the entrances to the post-match, the match itself was just amazing, a dream match for many people. I would probably say that is Sami Zayn's best match in WWE. Hopefully, maybe even the Roman Reigns match on Friday will come close. Zayn won the other two matches. He beat Neville, and he beat Kevin Owens. He lost to Nakamura, still his best match. Maybe that Roman Reigns match coming up on Saturday could come close to being one of his best matches if it lives up to the hype in Montreal at Elimination Chamber. Micah's second question, what did you think of Super Bowl 57, and what were your favorite commercials? The game itself I thought was great. Honestly, I thought the game itself, even not being a big football fan, despite what I say sometimes here on the channel with Mr. Marceau, I did like the game a lot. I thought the game itself was great. I did pay attention. I paid a lot more attention to the Super Bowl in recent years, probably since 2020, than I have in years past. I didn't really watch it prior to that point. I would watch some of it, but not really all of it. The game itself was, I thought, terrific, very close, even up until the end. I thought the game itself was great. The commercials, not so much. Favorite commercials, though, I like the Dunkin' Donuts one with Ben Affleck and J-Lo. I thought that one was well done. That was one of the early ones, I think. That was a good one. I like the, not exactly, it was a commercial, but the Flash trailer I thought was cool. I'm not even the biggest DC fan, but I thought that was a great commercial. That was really well done. I thought that was cool. I really liked, honestly, my favorite commercials, and this probably isn't a popular opinion because they're not really all that relevant in 2023. The Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller commercials for like whatever it was, Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, or whatever it was. I actually really like those commercials. I fucking love Ben Stiller, and I don't see him in nearly enough stuff, these days. So seeing him in the commercial was great, reprising his role as Derek Zoolander, whatever his name was, in Zoolander. And then the Will Ferrell one I thought was funny as well. The Google Pixel one I thought was cool, where you can remove people from the background. I'm trying to think of other commercials. There were a couple trailers that looked interesting, but I thought the Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller ones were probably my favorite, to be honest. There weren't many that really stood out in the same way they have in years past, but I thought those were probably my favorites, to be honest. Let's see. Next question comes from Nike Only. If Paul Heyman turned on Roman Reigns for a new wrestler to align himself with who? With someone else, who would you want him to pair up with in WWE? That's a great question. Two names come to mind. I was going to say Ronda Rousey. I feel like that's too late, though. I feel like the time to pair Paul with Ronda probably would have been, maybe not, when she first came into the company, but she was really over as a babyface at that point. As a heel, after she turned, if she didn't leave, I would say after WrestleMania 35, if she didn't leave to go get pregnant and take time off for that, to become a mother, I would say probably put Paul Heyman with her at that point. Because Brock was still around doing stuff, on occasion, though. He came back and won the fucking title a couple of months later. I wasn't a big fan of that. But you could have had him do both, as both Brock's manager and Ronda's manager. Ronda has always really needed a mouthpiece, but it's more apparent when she's a heel. As a heel, she kind of has better promos, but even her promos lately as a heel have been fucking awful, so I don't know. Maybe after she turned last year, but again, he was kind of so involved with the Roman Reigns thing that time didn't exactly work out. At this point, to me, Ronda Rousey feels like as big of a name as she still is to a certain extent. The mystique is gone. She feels like damaged goods. Not that she's completely worthless to the company, but she doesn't have nearly the same buzz around her she did even a year ago, and people weren't excited to see her back even then. And a year later, her run has been completely bungled, from the promos to the various weird turns to the matches not being good, the booking being questionable. She's had a really weird run in WWE over the last year. I feel like it's too little too late for Paul Heyman to be paired with Ronda Rousey. I feel like the most logical pick, and people are probably thinking, what about like Braun Breaker or someone from NXT or whatever? No, honestly, like Solo Sikoa, because I feel like the natural progression of the Bloodline storyline, not anytime soon, but maybe like well after WrestleMania, after Roman Reigns takes time off, you can still do the Bloodline. Like, I don't know what happens to the Usos, but like Solo Sikoa is still going strong, maybe with the Usos, and Paul Heyman kind of gravitates to him. We've seen this before in like various other forms in wrestling, but like he starts joining him, and he kind of backs Solo Sikoa, and then at some point when Roman Reigns comes back, and you kind of do what they did with Punk and Lesnar back in 2013, where when Punk came back, Punk kind of told Heyman, I don't really need you anymore. And then Heyman jumped onto Brock Lesnar, who wasn't exactly a new client. He was already with Brock. Kind of simultaneously, actually, up to Punk's absence in 2013. He was managing Brock and Punk simultaneously in WWE, which is pretty cool considering they were two top talents at the time. Still, I would probably put him with Solo, because Solo was great. And his promos were fine in NXT, but I think he would work even better, as he has so far, as the silent badass, with Heyman doing the talking for him. He probably won't reach the same level that Roman Reigns did with Paul Heyman, but it's still a great fit anyway. Beyond that, there's really no one else that comes to mind. I don't really know if we need another Paul Heyman guy. Roman Reigns was just perfect for that role. I never even thought that would happen. But I think it's better than putting him with someone else entirely at this point. Heyman's amazing. I don't know how many years he wants to continue being an on-air character. But I just feel like whatever value and however many years he has left should be paired with someone that he's already kind of associated with, and someone like Solo Sikoa. Ronda would make sense to a certain extent because they're already kind of, they've never actually interacted on screen, I don't think, but they've had a lot of, similarities, and not similarities, but like he's already been connected with her backstage, writing a lot of her stuff in the last year reportedly, and even during her first run of the company 5 years ago. So it would make sense if he was with Ronda, but I feel like Solo Sikoa is probably the best possible fit, honestly, best possible perfect fit for Paul Heyman when that day comes where Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman aren't together anymore, which hopefully won't be anytime soon, but it could be a scenario where Roman Reigns goes away after WrestleMania, if, and hopefully he does, lose the World Championship, comes back, maybe not as like, oh, I'm the Shield, Roman Reigns babyface with the old music, but like he kind of explores a tweener turn where Paul Heyman turns on him after, 3 years? Because Paul Heyman has only ever been aligned with Roman while he was champion. And when Roman's not champion anymore, I know the hierarchy in that group is that Roman is the head of the table, obviously, and Heyman has no evil bearing on him at all. But Heyman might still say, listen, you have no power over me. You're not the champion anymore. It doesn't matter. And then he joins Solo Sikoa, who has not lost yet. And that can be like he can be his new, money grab or whatever the fucking expression is. So I actually like that idea a lot. Not saying they need to do that, but just an idea. Micah does its next question. Do you think Sami Zayn will get his old babyface theme song back for his entrance at Elimination Chamber of the pay-per-view on Saturday? I don't know if he will or not. I hope so. I don't want to say he will or he won't because I honestly don't know. There's a good chance he could. I mean, Johnny came back with his old music, Rebel Heart. I know he used it in his last 2 appearances in NXT, but even still, they knew Johnny Gargano was coming back to WWE. They could have put together that new song he has now. They could have had him use that when he first came back, and they didn't. He used Rebel Heart, the original version, which was far superior to the one he has now. He used that for a couple of months and then used the current one, which is not nearly as good in my opinion. With Sami Zayn, I don't think he would use it consistently. He could probably use it for a couple of months, but I feel like he should use it on Saturday. The crowd would go nuts. And then you can, he doesn't have to use it forever. I know he even said in various interviews it doesn't really fit his current character, and that's not who he is anymore. Leave that chapter in the past. I would honestly say use it through at least WrestleMania, and then after that come up with new music for him. I actually think the music he has now is great, but it doesn't fit his babyface persona. It's great for a heel, and he should have debuted a fucking years ago. He should not have used Worlds Apart for as long as he did as a heel. But anyway, I do think he should use it on Saturday, and the crowd would go fucking ballistic. So I really hope he does. Don't know if he will, but it's not a case of like, oh, CFO bad, can't use song. I mean, they've used CFO music before. If they want to bring back a CFO song, they fucking can. I don't know if it's like they have to pay more money for it, for like the rights for it, because they don't work with a company anymore. I don't know how that works exactly, but we have heard people bring back their CFO music and not complete. Like Nia Jax came back with her CFO music. Like, I mean, obviously, it would have made no sense if she debuted new music if she's not sticking around. But still, I mean, they can use the CFO music even for a one-off if they wanted to. I feel like it would be perfect for Saturday. And I can also envision a scenario where at WrestleMania, when hopefully they win the tag titles, him and Kevin Owens against the Usos, they play that song, Owens and Zayn hug, crying as champions, just amazing. So hopefully he keeps it. If he brings it back on Saturday, which fingers crossed he does, he keeps it for at least a little while. Emmanuel A. says, this is going to be multiple questions, but do you remember the WWE Power 25? The SmackDown vs. Raw games used to include the Power 25 as part of GM mode. I remember that. I was playing SVR 08, only SVR with GM mode I still have. The only SVR game he says he still has with GM mode, so not 06 or 07. And he continues, I had forgotten that there's a system in place where someone can only challenge for the world title if they're in the top 5 within your brand. Do you think the WWE 2K game should bring that system back? Also, do you think something like that would work if any promotion did it for real, like if AEW actually committed to their power ranking system and someone can only challenge for a title if they're in the top 5 of their division? I mean, they did do that for a long time. AEW did do that where you could only challenge for the championship if you're in the top 5, if not at number 1. And here's the thing. I love that system, but it kind of fell apart at the end there, and they haven't done it since. Because there will absolutely be scenarios where someone who has not wrestled a single fucking match should challenge for a championship. Like, honestly, it kind of fell apart after MJF came back, won the token or whatever it was at All Out, and then it's like, okay, he's number 1 contender. All right, well, the guy hasn't won a match in like 6 months, but okay, he's going to challenge for the championship. Because that's what wrestling is sometimes. With wrestling, sometimes, like The Rock coming back, challenging for the championship. From like a statistical standpoint does not make sense, but that's wrestling. I'm not saying you do that all the time, but there will absolutely be instances where you have to do a match for a championship and the number 1 contender is not going to be out there winning a million matches, like Daniel Bryan has been on Dynamite for the last month and a half. You're just not going to have that all the time. So I understand why they don't take it seriously. They could take it more seriously, even in WWE. I mean, there's instances where people get title shots or are involved in number 1 contenders matches that absolutely should not be. I completely agree with that. As far as the Power 25 goes with WWE, yeah, I do remember that as part of the old games because I still, I still play on occasion the SVR 07 GM mode with Alexis, and we turn that shit off where it's like, okay, you can't put this person in the title match, which is fucking dumb. You can't do a world title feud though. You can't create a rivalry, a world championship branded feud in one of those games. I don't know if they have that in 08. I know they have it in 07, and I think 06 as well, where they have like storylines that you can assign people, which is fucking cool. I wish they had that in the new games. But you can't put someone in the world title program if they're not in like the top 5 or top 10 or whatever, like you said. Which is, it's annoying sometimes when that's not the direction I'm going in, and I don't play the matches. That's also annoying too. But it is what it is. Yeah, I thought, WWE used to have a Power 25 on their website. I used to check it all the time, every single week on WWE.com. From the time I started watching wrestling in 08, I think they did it through, I want to say 2013 or 2014. I would check it every fucking Saturday. And then they eventually did away with it. It is a great idea. It's completely kayfabe, but yeah, it would be cool if 2K brought that system back. You even commented on my latest GSM for GM video as far as like world title programs and what would make sense and how you can do them and stuff like that. It would be a little bit more clear cut if you had the option to turn on a Power 25. I haven't heard anything about the GM mode for this next game. We have the complete roster now. We got the soundtrack. That's great. But we don't know who else. We don't really know anything about GM mode. We don't know anything else about that. So hopefully we find out more details about that soon with the game coming out in a couple of weeks. Next question from Noel from YouTube as well. First question of theirs was, do you think Edge and Finn Balor should have a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania this year? That was the rumor for the Royal Rumble from WrestlingNews.co from many months ago, was that the match at the Rumble would be them two in a Hell in a Cell match. Now, I didn't really believe it because it didn't make a whole lot of sense at the time. If they wanted to blow it off there, I just don't understand if that's true. Why the fuck would you do it at Royal Rumble when WrestleMania is 2 months away? Because theoretically, I guess what happened was, according to them, Edge got casted in that Disney Plus show, and they had to push back the feud through WrestleMania. Okay, so if Edge is doing that at the Royal Rumble, and we're in an alternate universe where they blow off their feud at the Rumble, what the fuck else do Finn Balor and Edge do at WrestleMania? I don't know if there's enough time for them to really do anything else, to be honest. I guess Edge and AJ Styles came together on a whim last year, so I guess there's that. There is that, but I don't know. It just kind of feels like a WrestleMania match to me. Maybe they could have done that match and then done the intergender match with Rhea at Mania, but then again, she would be challenging for the championship, and maybe they wouldn't have had her win if that was the case. I don't know. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, I do think it could be Hell in the Cell. I think if Brock and Bobby have their next match at Mania, which they should, to blow it off at Mania. Again, talk about blowing off feuds before Mania. That should also culminate at WrestleMania. I see them having probably like a no DQ, no holds barred match. I would put them in a fight pit, but I don't know if you want to have a fight pit on one night and Hell in the Cell on the next. It's kind of very similar concepts. But yeah, if there was ever a time to do a Hell in the Cell match, given Edge's own history inside the structure, I would do Edge and Balor at Mania inside Hell in the Cell for sure. That would make the most sense. Their second question, should Ruby Soho turn heel and join Toni Storm and Paige, Saraya, trying to take over the AEW women's division? Yeah, it would make sense. The story they're telling without explicitly saying it is that it's the newcomers from WWE NXT, really. The WWE leftovers of the women's division versus the homegrown talent, the originals, that being Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, people like that. Then Ruby Soho logically would join Toni and Paige. Ruby Soho is such a fucking loser. I love Ruby, but as a talent, she's great. From a booking standpoint, she's such a loser. She never really wins whenever it matters most. She's an afterthought. I do think a heel turn could do her some good. It would be tough to turn her heel with that theme song, but I guess you could still do it anyway. And what does she really have left to lose at this point? She's lost a lot. I'm not sure if that would really help her standing in the company, but it's an idea. You could keep her face, you can keep her heel, or turn her heel. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. They really have to flesh out the storyline more, because the Paige and Toni heel turn so far has been pretty weak. I like the idea originally of okay, it's like the homegrown talent versus the WWE leftovers, even though the heel turn for Toni and Saraya was really, really forced and abrupt. I do like the story on paper. They haven't really fleshed it out yet. And the spray paint shit from Toni. Toni is such an afterthought in that feud, by the way. So maybe Ruby turning heel will not be for the best, because so far she's just been doing the spray painting thing. I'm not sure if we've heard from Toni so far as a heel. You've only really heard from Saraya. And their heel turn came together so quickly, and they've been doing this spray painting shit, and it's like, okay, that's kind of dumb. What are we, the fucking NWO? I think that's kind of stupid. So I'm not even really sure a heel turn would solve Ruby's problems, because Tony turned heel, and she feels less relevant than she was when she was a babyface, which is kind of bizarre to me. But turn her heel, keep her face, doesn't really matter. Just flesh out the feud, make the storyline make sense, explain it a little bit more, give us more of a reason to care, and don't just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff without any real meaning behind it, is my only thing about that. We move on to the Twitter questions. First from @Uwagoon91. Their first question was, he says, first off, hope you and Alexis enjoyed Valentine's Day yesterday. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We actually went out for sushi. Did not watch NXT last night live. No wrestling. We watched other stuff instead. We watched Monka, actually, on Peacock, which is an amazing show. But anyway, his first question was, your thoughts on Ricochet and Braun Strowman teaming up. I've actually grown to really like their tag team. Not that I didn't like it originally, but they have really good chemistry. And if there's no other plans in place for either guy right now, they're both at a great spot where they're like over as baby faces. They're over on their own. They work very well together, but they're not going to be winning any titles anytime soon. They're not going for the world title. They're not going for the Intercontinental title because they already lost against Gunther, respectively, both of them multiple times. So it would make sense, honestly, just to keep them in the tag team division for right now. I know they lost to the Usos on Saturday or on Friday's SmackDown, but still, I think keeping them as a team for now and doing that whole thing would be better than splitting them up and having them do nothing on their own for the time being. His next question, your thoughts on Walter versus Tyler Bate for the WWE UK title in 2019. I was going to say I was there for the match. I was actually there for Walter versus Pete Dunne at TakeOver. What was that? New York? I mean, it was technically Brooklyn 4 or 5 or whatever it was. I think it was Brooklyn 5, but they called it TakeOver New York over WrestleMania weekend. Anyway, yeah, no, that match was amazing. That's one of my favorite matches from 2019. I remember it was the weekend of All Out 2019. I actually did not go to that show, but I was in Chicago for that weekend to go meet CM Punk. And it was great. And, you know, we didn't have time to watch the TakeOver that weekend, the UK TakeOver in Cardiff, I think it was. Maybe the Cardiff was the first one. It might have been Blackpool. I don't remember. I think it was the Cardiff show. And we didn't have time to watch it until like the next day when we were leaving. So we flew out on Sunday and we were waiting in the hotel for waiting for our flight basically. So we watched it in the hotel lobby and I'm like, wow, that match was fucking incredible. Like I plugged it into the TV in the lobby trying to watch the rest of this match and I'm like, wow, that match was incredible. One of my favorite matches I saw in 2019. It's a bummer they never had a rematch either on like a main stage. And you know what? Maybe they still can. Tyler Bate, they're both still there. Gunther's on the main roster. Tyler Bate's in NXT. I mean, the fact he's there and not on the main roster is kind of ridiculous to me. It's been fucking 5 or 6 years he's been in that company in like the developmental territory, so to speak. But anyway, that match was just amazing. I'm glad you brought that up and I can rewatch that at some point because it's just a 45-minute beat the fuck out of you type of match that I really, really enjoyed. His last question here, if Gunther does defend the IC title against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, do you see Sheamus winning the title at the event? I do, and he absolutely should. I mean, I guess you can wait. The only thing I could see that why Gunther would win is because they want to wait until after he breaks the record to have Sheamus beat him for the title. I mean, I guess... When would he break the record, though? Fucking like October, I think? I think he'd have to be a champion. He'd have to be the champion for a year and 4 months. So he'd probably have to be the champion through like October or whatever. Like I'm thinking in my mind, oh, could you have Sheamus win it at like another Clash of the Castle? But they're not doing that this year because they're going to London for Money in the Bank. So they're not going to be in the UK again for a long time. And Money in the Bank is too soon if they want to have him break the record. It would be cool if Gunther broke the record, but it doesn't matter that much to me. If it wasn't at Clash for him to beat Gunther or another Clash show, which they're not doing again this year, I would imagine, then WrestleMania is the next best thing. And if he's going to be in the match anyway, which it looks like he will be, then he just fucking do it there. So I love Gunther and I love Drew as well, but I really do think Sheamus should be the one to end the reign, and it should be at Mania if it's not going to be at any other point later this year. And to wait any longer, people may not care at that point. I mean, anyone could rise up and it's like, okay, that person makes sense to win the championship. It's not Sheamus' moment anymore when it could have been at WrestleMania. So I would absolutely have Sheamus win the championship, and he's currently my prediction to walk out of that show, the new Intercontinental Champion. Next couple of questions come from John Ritland on the Twitter machine at Reborn Again, and also on YouTube as well, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his channel, does great work. John's first question was, so is it just me, or is all the Cody stuff promos, storyline, etc., felt incredibly manufactured. Yes, there's the family aspect of his story, but to me, his promos have usually dripped with a lot of insincerity. I'm not going to say it's just you, but I do think you're in the minority, though. I've been the polar opposite. I've loved all of his promos, all the stuff he's done since coming back to the company last year, lately as well. The Heyman exchange, the Sammy exchange, just exceptional stuff in my opinion. You're not wrong for having that opinion at all. You just may not be. I don't know if you're not a Cody guy or you just feel the way that you said you feel as far as like you don't like his promos or for the reasons that you mentioned. I honestly am in the exact opposite in that I love his promos because to me they feel so real. The opposite of insincere. To me they feel so genuine more than anyone else on the roster that does feel manufactured or scripted or ingenuine or insincere, as you said. So no, I completely disagree, but I don't think you're the only one, though, to answer your exact question. I'm sure and I've seen other people actually say on Twitter, oh, I can't get into the Cody stuff, I don't like it. I mean, that's going to be with any storyline. There's not going to be anyone or any one storyline or match that every single person's going to love. So I feel like you are in the minority, but you aren't the only one, though. Your second question, non-wrestling related, but do you think there's any chance Scream 6, aka Ghostface, Takes Manhattan is going to be better than Scream 5? I did like Scream 5, but I know you said you didn't. Yeah, John and I talked about this in our 2022 year in review in movies, movies in review, whatever the fuck, video that we did a couple of weeks ago back at the beginning of 2023, talking about the best, worst movies of the year. Scream 5 was like leading the list as far as the worst movies I thought I saw last year. I thought the movie sucked. But at the same time, though, I was in the minority on that. You talk about minority opinions. I was in the minority about that. I mean, Alexis didn't like it either. My brother didn't like it. I didn't even see it with him. But I was in the minority on that because it seemed like a lot of people online, Scream fans, loved the movie. And John, I know you said you liked the movie as well. That being said, having seen the trailers for this next one, I am looking forward to seeing it. I will see this one. I can't. You said, is it going to be better than Scream 5? Yes, I do think so, because I thought Scream 5 was so fucking abysmal that I think it would be impossible for it to be any worse. And again, I know you're probably thinking, oh, I thought it was so good. There's a chance it may not be as good. Hopefully it has to be better. I mean, there's a chance I'll like it and then other people don't, I guess. But for me, I didn't even like Scream 5 at all. Scream 6 has potential because it looks cool. The trailer looked good. They're in a different setting, New York City, cool. You said Ghostface Takes Manhattan. I actually love the Jason Takes Manhattan movie of Friday the 13th. So if it's anything remotely similar or as dumb as that, then I will like this movie. For as bad as that was, it was so bad it was good. Scream 5, it was just so bad it was bad to me. Didn't give a fuck about the movie at all. But I will see this next one because it looks like it has potential. So I do think it will be better in my opinion. At noob_n_code TV, who will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year? I'm going with the Great Muta, Victoria, Batista, Cyndi Lauper, Ricky Morton Jr., and Michelle McCool. They're not going to have more than, it's very rare they have more than one women's inductee. I'm not saying they shouldn't have more than one women's inductee. I think they definitely should. They never have, though, I don't think. Cyndi Lauper's a celebrity, but I'm talking about, you said Victoria and Michelle McCool. Michelle McCool not being in there shocks me, honestly. I'm surprised she didn't go in last year. Michelle McCool, Victoria would be great. Either one is fine with me. Get fucking Miss Elizabeth in there already. It's ridiculous that she's not. The Great Muta feels like a slam dunk to me. Batista feels like a slam dunk to me. You said Ricky Morton Jr.? The fuck would Ricky Morton Jr.? I'm thinking of Kerry Morton. I apologize. If you're talking about Ricky Morton of the Midnight, didn't they go in the Rock and Roll Express? Didn't they go in? Like, maybe I'm missing who Ricky Morton Jr. is. I'm thinking of Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, who already went in 2017. So I don't know who you're talking about. Maybe I'm a moron. I'm not sure, but any of those names is fine. I've heard people say William Regal, which would be sick. But the problem with that, I don't think, is that he can't appear in any TV show of theirs for like at least a year. I would assume the Hall of Fame is counted in that. I've gone over my Hall of Fame predictions before. I won't repeat them here, partially because I don't remember. But you kind of nailed most of it. Either Victoria, Muta for sure, Batista makes sense, Regal. I'm trying to think of who else they haven't already inducted, but those names at least make sense. Get Cyndi Lauper in there as part of the celebrity wing. That would be perfect. You need a Warrior Award inductee. I don't know who that would be, I guess, but those are some solid names to induct, though, this year. His second question, what are your thoughts on the current state of the NWA? The main event scene is embarrassing to watch. The women's division is somewhat passable. And the tag division is all right. Also, who will win the NWA women's title? My pick is Natalia Markova. Hope she'll win the tournament. I don't know what tournament you're talking about. I haven't seen Power yet, so I don't know what you're talking about. The NWA just ain't good, dude. It's not good. I thought the live Power show that we talked about last week was good. The pay-per-view was not great. It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, but that main event was fucking awful. EC3 and Kevin Kiley Jr. was fucking awful, and that's coming from someone who's an Alex Riley fan, who was an Alex Riley fan. That was just embarrassing. So, it's easily the worst promotion out there right now. And I like promoting their shows and talking to the talent, and I will watch the shows every week because I like to review the shows because I've already watched it for this long, so I'll continue on with it. But it's just not great. I mean, not everything is bad, but they've lost a lot of talent for a reason. And I'm glad they're doing more pay-per-views and having more shows and stuff. That's great. But the quality of a lot of these shows is not good. They're just not great. It's worse than WWE, AEW, Impact for sure, MLW even. I mean, I watch all those programs, and they're all infinitely better. Even MLW, which doesn't have a lot going on, is definitely better than NWA. Their state of that company has not been great in a long time, and I don't see it improving anytime soon. Again, like I said, I wish them nothing but the best. I hope they get more success and bring in more talent. They haven't brought in a lot of great talent lately, aside from people from the fucking FCW era, which is not a great sign for their future. But yeah, the company is what it is at this point. It just does not have that same magic it did 3.5 years ago. At Prince of S2, their question was, in honor of the passing of Jerry Jarrett, and this is the last question for the day, where would you rank him amongst the best bookers and promoters? Also, who would you rank as the Mount Rushmore of promoters, bookers, in wrestling? Thanks, and have a good day. Jerry Jarrett, first of all, rest in peace, passed away yesterday at the age of 80. Absolutely, I think should be, to me, included amongst the greatest bookers and promoters of all time. You'd have to put him on there, Vern Gagne, put Gagne on there. You'd have to put Jerry Jarrett. I mean, Vince McMahon, obviously, he has to be considered the greatest promoter of all time for obvious reasons. I'm not sure. And this is coming from someone who's not overly well-versed in this category, in this area of expertise. RJ could probably tell you a lot more about it than I can. This is coming from someone who watched Tales from the Territories as well. I love the show. He was actually on the show, so to hear that he passed away after only being on the show a couple of months ago, although it was taped a while ago, was sad. He was only 80 years old, and that was a bummer. So sad to hear about Jerry Jarrett's passing. Rest in peace. But yeah, he would have to be included among the greatest promoters of all time. Gagne. I'm thinking of Cowboy Bill Watts and McMahon. I mean, I'm sure there's obviously many more that I'm not thinking of, but those are probably the four that come to mind the most. I'm trying to think of who else would be on there. Bill Watts, Gagne, Jarrett, and McMahon. Maybe you can take off Jarrett and put on somebody else. The NOI family, for all they did for professional wrestling and the Polynesian wrestling scene is big. Go back and watch any of those episodes of Tales from the Territory. They could tell you a lot more about it than I can. I don't know if Ted Turner would be considered like a booker promoter. I would not put like Triple H on that list or fucking Tony Khan or anything like that. I'm thinking like all time, especially extended success and all the stars they created would probably, again, off the top of my head, and I'm probably missing a big name, but it would be Gagne, it would be Watts, it would be Jarrett, and it would be McMahon. I'm not sure who else would come to mind, so any of those names, I guess, would be considered among the greatest bookers and promoters of all time. And I guess you can give an honorable mention to the people I mentioned, later on. Again, I think it's too early for like a Triple H or a Tony Khan or anything like that, but those four names for sure set the foundation for the wrestling scene that we have today. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 481 of #AskGSM. Thank you guys so much, as always, for sending in questions. I really appreciate it. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself, over at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. And also on the comment section down below on this very video, at just down below here on this very video channel, be sure to include your comment, question in your comment, and I'll include it in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, we got a busy weekend ahead. Elimination Chamber coming up on Saturday. I will be in there in attendance, so it's going to be a fucking crazy weekend for sure that I'm looking forward to participating in. But with all that being said, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.